I've done the inner work. I'm catching my thoughts. I'm feeling my feelings.
Yeah.
But I still have bills to pay. I still have to work. And honestly, I'm tired of hustling. Is there a way to create abundance without burning out?
Oh, man. I mean, first of all, it is so incredibly valid that you're feeling that exact exhaustion.
Yeah.
I want to speak directly to that frustration right now because, well, it's the exact wall so many of us hit.
Yeah, it really is.
You know, you're doing the meditations, you're trying to be mindful, you're doing everything, quote unquote, right, in your inner world. But the outer world, the rent, the groceries,
It's a grind.
right, the daily grind, it
Yeah.
just still feels like this heavy, unyielding boulder that you have to push uphill every single day. The burnout is real. The economic pressures you are facing are real. It's not just in your head.
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
there is this massive agonizing gap between what we experience on the meditation cushion and what we experience when we actually open up our banking apps.
It's two entirely different realities.
Yeah. And it's so easy to start feeling cynical, right? You start thinking, well, mindfulness is a great luxury for people who don't have a mortgage, but the rest of us have to actually grind.
Completely. And that friction, that profound tension between the spiritual ideal and the material reality is the exact landscape we are walking into today in this deep dive.
I am so ready for this.
So we're going to look really closely at the teachings of Jane Roberts, specifically the material she channeled, which is known as the Seth material. And for those of you listening who might be new to this, Jane Roberts was an author living in Elmira, New York in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
And she began channeling this personality essence who called himself Seth. Now, regardless of where you stand on the metaphysical nature of channeling itself, the philosophical framework that Seth delivered through Jane is, well, it's considered some of the most profound material on human consciousness ever recorded.
It really is. It's so dense, but so brilliant.
It is. And most importantly, for our deep dive today, it is incredibly practical.
And practical is, frankly, exactly what we need. We don't need more abstract theories. We need to know how to pay the rent without losing our minds.
Precisely. Which brings us to the real paradigm shift we are going to explore today. In Chapter 9 of The Nature of Personal Reality, Seth states this verbatim: money is a symbol of your belief in your own creative energy.
Wow. Okay.
And then he grounds the mechanics of how that works in Chapter 11 with this absolute rule. Action in the physical world follows action in the mental world, never the other way around.
Wait, okay, let me stop you right there so we can really unpack this, because that is a massive, audacious claim. Never the other way around.
Never the other way around.
So we are basically saying that the physical exhaustion, the burnout, the empty bank account, all of that is just a delayed reflection of what is happening in the mind first.
Yes, exactly. Today's deep dive is fundamentally about learning a completely new relationship with money and mastering the art of allowing. We are framing this as the absolute ultimate antidote to the exact burnout you just described. We are going to examine how our conscious mind is currently being misused to force outcomes, rather than allowing our natural abundance to actually flow.
I kind of love that word, misused. It implies we have a perfectly good tool. We're just sort of holding it backward and wondering why it's not working.
That's a great way to put it.
Because if action in the physical world follows action in the mental world, then my physical burnout is really just a symptom. It means my mental world is already running on a treadmill. I'm hustling internally before I even start hustling externally.
Waking up already bracing for impact.
Exactly. So what is Seth's actual diagnosis here? How are our minds actually blocking this natural flow of abundance? Because I have to be honest, if you tell me I just need to think positive, I might literally throw my microphone across the room.
And you would be completely justified in doing that. No, this is not about toxic positivity at all. It really comes down to two highly practical teachings regarding the mechanics of human energy.
Okay, I'm listening.
The first one is about the true nature of money itself. Seth's core view is that abundance is a natural state of being. And he uses a very specific analogy. Think about a flower.
A flower?
Right. A flower does not wake up and hustle to bloom. It doesn't struggle. It doesn't grind. It doesn't, force its petals open through sheer willpower. It simply allows its own nature to unfold.
Right. It just rests there.
Exactly. It rests in the natural grace of its environment.
Okay, I actually have to push back on the flower analogy a little bit.
Go for it.
Because, it's a beautiful thought, but a flower doesn't have an electric bill. A flower just needs rain and dirt, which are free.
Yeah.
I need actual fiat currency by the first of the month.
Yeah.
So how does the natural state of a flower relate to human economics? It feels a little, I don't know, like a self-help cliche.
That is a brilliant pushback, and it's the exact hurdle we really have to clear to understand this. You're right, the flower doesn't use fiat currency, but what the flower does use is the energetic exchange of its environment. It takes in sunlight and nutrients, and it gives out oxygen and beauty and sustenance for pollinators. It is locked in this perfectly balanced exchange of value.
I see where you're going with this.
For humans in a modern society, money is simply the current agreed-upon mechanism for that exact exchange. That is why Seth defines money simply as a physical symbol. He says it's a symbol of your belief in your own creative energy.
A symbol. So the green paper itself, or, the numbers on the screen, they have zero inherent power.
Exactly zero. The money is just the dirt and the sunlight translated into our societal structure. The fundamental truth Seth is pointing to is that struggle only arises from internal beliefs that actively block this natural flow of exchange.
So we're blocking our own sunlight.
Yes, when you freely give your creative energy to the world without fear, the physical symbol of that energy, which is money, naturally flows back to you. I mean, the flower doesn't block the sunlight because it feels unworthy of it, right?
Right.
The flower doesn't refuse the rain because it thinks it needs to suffer to be a, quote, good flower.
Oh, wow. Okay, that hits hard. Because that is exactly where our cultural conditioning just slams right into us like a brick wall.
Yeah.
We are definitely not taught that abundance is natural.
Not at all.
We're taught that abundance is this finite, scarce resource that you have to fight for. Like, you have to claw your way to it in this zero-sum game. If I get the sunlight, someone else is left in the dark.
Yes. And beyond just the concept of scarcity, we have all these deeply ingrained societal beliefs that create a massive barrier against that natural flow.
Like what?
Well, think about the invisible scripts running in the background for so many of us. You hear them all the time. Money is the root of all evil. Or the classic, artists must starve to be authentic.
Oh, yeah. The starving artists.
Or even just the quiet, insidious belief of, I don't deserve to be paid well for doing what I love. Work is supposed to be hard. If it's not hard, it's not valuable.
Okay, that last one is the exact trap I fall into constantly, the whole Puritan work ethic thing.
It's so deeply rooted in us.
If I finish a project and it felt easy and joyful, I literally feel guilty sending the invoice. I feel like I'm scamming someone because I didn't suffer enough to, earn the payment. That is a completely deranged way to live when you actually say it out loud.
It really is, but it is so incredibly common. And let's look at the actual mechanism of how that belief dictates your physical reality, because this isn't just magic.
Right, it's mechanics.
Exactly. If you hold the belief that work must be hard to be valuable and you suddenly start making money easily, your psyche will literally trigger a panic response. Your subconscious mind wants to keep you aligned with your core beliefs because those beliefs form your identity.
Oh, wow.
So if you make easy money, your subconscious says, red alert. We are violating our core values. We're becoming one of those lazy, undeserving people we constantly judge.
So what happens then? Do we just unconsciously sabotage the income?
Absolutely. You will suddenly forget to follow up on a lucrative lead, or you'll severely underprice your next project. You might even manifest a physical illness right before a big opportunity so you have a valid excuse to pull out.
That is terrifying.
You will unconsciously orchestrate scenarios to ensure that your work remains a struggle, thus protecting your identity as a hard, noble worker. The physical world follows the mental world. The belief dictates the physical reality.
That is deeply unsettling, but it makes perfect sense. So the lack of money or the constant burnout, it isn't because we aren't working hard enough in the physical world. It's because we're working incredibly hard internally to uphold our hidden beliefs about why we shouldn't have ease.
Yes, you are using immense amounts of energy to hold the dam in place to stop the flow of your own river. Which really brings us to the second part of Seth's diagnosis, the critical difference between allowing and forcing.
Right. Because when we are panicked about money, the first instinct is to force it. We think if I just put in 10 more hours, if I just hustle harder, if I just force this project to work.
And that is the exact recipe for burnout. Seth's sequence for reality creation is strictly inner work first. You must align your belief and your feeling internally, and then take small, inspired action.
Inner work first. Okay.
When you operate this way, the action feels effortless. It feels joyful. If, on the other hand, the action feels like you are pushing a boulder uphill, it is a glaring red flag.
A red flag that you're out of alignment.
Yes. It means your internal beliefs are not aligned with your goal, and you're trying to use brute physical action to compensate for a mental block. When it feels like forcing, you absolutely must pause and realign the mind first.
So allowing isn't laziness, it's aligning before acting.
Emphatically, yes. That is the crucial distinction, and I'm so glad you phrased it exactly that way. Allowing requires immense mental discipline. It is not, sitting on your couch, refusing to pay your bills, and waiting for a bag of cash to just fall through the ceiling.
Right, unfortunately.
Sadly, no. It is actively managing your conscious mind.
I think a lot of people conflate allowing with just giving up or being passive. But what you're saying is that allowing is actually a highly active state of mental calibration.
Perfectly said. In Chapter 11, Seth explains the actual function of the conscious mind. It is uniquely equipped to direct outward activity and assess the physical environment. Its job is to look around and say, okay, here is where we are, here are the parameters.
But we completely misuse it.
We do. We use the conscious mind to worry, to force, to agonize over the how, and to try to micromanage the entire universe.
It's like we are trying to manually pump our own hearts with our conscious minds instead of just letting the body do what it naturally knows how to do.
Yeah.
We're sitting there thinking, squeeze right ventricle, now the left, pump the blood. Oh my God, what if I forget to pump?
Yes.
It is exhausting. The heart knows how to beat. We just have to let it.
That is an absolutely brilliant analogy, yes. The inner self, the subconscious, the deeper creative energy, whatever you want to call it, is the heart. It knows the complex mechanics of bringing your desires into reality. It knows the thousands of variables required to bring an opportunity right to your doorstep.
So what is the conscious mind supposed to do while the heart is pumping?
Allowing is the practice of trusting that system, while your conscious mind simply holds the clear, joyful expectation of the result and takes the obvious, easy physical steps that present themselves right in front of you.
I want to ground this because for you listening, this can still sound like a really beautiful, kind of lofty theory. It's easy to talk about inner alignment when you're recording a deep dive. But Seth wasn't just speaking into a void. He was speaking directly to Jane Roberts. And she was a real woman with very real, gritty, day-to-day struggles.
Very much so.
How did this actual diagnosis play out in her life? Because she wasn't immune to this, was she?
Not at all. And that is the most fascinating and validating part of all this. Jane Roberts was not some guru sitting on a mountaintop, insulated from the real world. She lived in a modest apartment in Elmira, New York. She was a working writer and poet.
Right.
And especially in the early days of channeling Seth, she was intimately familiar with financial terror. She was living on a shoestring budget, constantly worried about making rent.
So here she is, channeling one of the most expansive philosophies of abundance ever recorded, while simultaneously stressing out about the grocery bill. That is incredibly relatable.
It is. And Seth used her own life as the primary classroom. Jane harbored a deeply entrenched foundational belief that real artists don't care about money.
There's that starving artist trope again.
Exactly. She valued her intellectual and spiritual pursuits above all else, but she looked down on the material world to a really significant degree. She thought that focusing on money or desiring wealth would somehow taint her creativity. She had this romanticized vision of the pure, starving artist.
Which is a belief system that is actively celebrated in our culture. We love the narrative of the tortured genius who cares only for the craft and dies penniless. We treat it like a badge of honor.
We do. But because the absolute rule is that action in the physical world follows action in the mental world, her physical reality had to perfectly mirror her internal beliefs. So she experienced intense financial struggles. She could barely keep her head above water.
Her belief that money was impure literally repelled it from her life.
Yes.
It's the ultimate irony. She possessed this profound, world-changing creative energy. I mean, the books she was producing were mind-bending. But because of her beliefs about what it meant to be a pure artist, she effectively barricaded herself from receiving the physical symbol of that energy, the money.
Yes. And Seth did not let her off the hook for this. He had to gently but firmly guide her to dismantle this belief. He pointed out that her creativity possessed immense intrinsic value. He had to help her realize that spirituality and material abundance are not mutually exclusive.
Right, they aren't enemies.
In fact, in his framework, physical reality is simply the spiritual materialized. To reject the physical is to reject the spiritual. He taught her that money was not dirty, and it was not a measure of greed. It was simply the physical symbol of exchanging value in her current society.
That reframing is so powerful because it takes the moral weight completely off the money.
Hmm?
Money isn't good or bad. It's just the dirt and the sunlight for the flower.
Exact.
It makes you wonder, for you listening right now, how many of us are secretly clinging to an identity that actively sabotages our bank accounts? Are you wearing the badge of the noble struggler because it makes you feel morally superior to people who have wealth?
That's a tough question to
Or are
face.
you afraid that if life gets too easy, people will judge you, or you won't belong to your peer group anymore?
Those are exactly the kinds of probing questions Seth pushed Jane to ask herself. And it was a process, it wasn't overnight. But as she slowly began to accept that her work was worthy of physical support and that allowing money in didn't make her a bad person or a sellout, her reality began to shift.
The dam broke.
The energetic dam started to break. Opportunities opened up. Publishers became interested. The financial stranglehold began to loosen. And the critical point here is that her financial reality didn't change because she got a second job digging ditches or grinding out 80-hour work weeks. It changed because she changed the mental action first.
She stopped fighting the flow of her own value. And it wasn't just about the money either, was it? It was about how she actually went about doing her daily work. There's an incredible story in the material about her struggling with writer's block that I think perfectly highlights this concept of forcing versus allowing.
Yes, her relationship with the blank page is the ultimate illustration of this dynamic. Jane, like many writers, used to sit at her typewriter and literally force herself to try to write. She would set these rigid schedules. She would agonize over a blank page for hours, gritting her teeth, her shoulders tense, stressed, feeling like she had to just squeeze the creativity out of herself through sheer discipline.
I'm getting secondhand anxiety just hearing that. We've all been there, staring at the blinking cursor, feeling the pressure, thinking, I have to produce something brilliant right now. And the harder you try, the more paralyzed your brain becomes.
It is exhausting, and as Jane found, it rarely produced good work. Seth observed her doing this, watching her tie herself into energetic knots, and he essentially told her to stop immediately. He told her to completely abandon the forcing.
Let's walk away.
He said if the words weren't there, she was to step away from the typewriter. Rest. Go for a walk, read a book, go to the grocery store, do anything but force it.
Which feels so violently counterintuitive. If you're behind on a deadline or you need to produce something to get paid, the last thing your conscious mind feels like you can do is go for a walk. Your ego is screaming, we don't have time to rest, we have to produce. If we walk away now, we are failing.
Exactly. The ego, the conscious mind, completely panics. It believes that its tight, anxious grip on the steering wheel is the only thing keeping the car on the road. But Seth explained to Jane that the forcing itself was the exact mechanism that was blocking the creative flow.
Wow.
By tensing up, by introducing fear and pressure, and by demanding that the inner self produce on a rigid, ego-driven schedule, she was literally cutting off the connection to the very source of her inspiration.
Because creativity, like abundance,
Right.
is a natural flow. You can't force a river to flow faster by yelling at it or pushing the water with your hands. You just muddy the water.
What a beautiful way to put it. You just muddy the water. When Jane finally listened to Seth, when she allowed herself to recharge and let go of the conscious demand to perform, the words eventually poured out of her effortlessly. She realized that the creativity was always there, waiting just beneath the surface. It was her own tension, her own forcing, that was keeping the door shut.
This feels like the turning point of our whole conversation.
Yeah.
Because we can clearly see how Jane created her own burnout by forcing the writing, and how her beliefs about the starving artist kept her struggling financially. The theory is crystal clear. We see the mechanics,
Right.
but seeing the problem is only half the battle. If we know that action in the physical world follows action in the mental world, how do we actually initiate that shift? Because I can't just snap my fingers and say, okay, I no longer believe work has to be hard. The beliefs are deep. So how do we step out of the forcing and into the allowing today?
This is where we pivot to the practical application, pulling directly from Seth's teachings in these chapters. We want to equip you with the exact tools to initiate this shift. We have two very specific techniques to give you right now.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first one is designed to unearth those hidden foundational beliefs that are blocking your abundance. We call it the money question. And here's how it works. You need to pause, get quiet, and ask yourself, what is my earliest memory of money?
Oh, that is a profound question, because it immediately bypasses all the logical adult rationalizations we have about our finances, like, interest rates or the current job market. It takes you straight into the subconscious basement.
It does, and the crucial step here isn't just remembering the factual event. The critical transformative step is identifying the feeling, in that specific memory.
The feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you think back to that earliest interaction with money, what was the visceral emotion in your body? Was it fear? Was it a sense of deep scarcity, like there would never be enough to go around? Was it guilt, perhaps feeling like you were a burden on your parents for needing a new pair of shoes?
Right.
Or was it anger, watching the adults in your life fight over bills at the kitchen table?
Or even a feeling of conditional love, like, I only get money or gifts when I behave perfectly. That creates a direct link between your worthiness and your income. I actually want to share my own, because of doing this exercise blew my mind.
Please do.
When I asked myself that question, my earliest memories being about 7 years old at the grocery store. My mom was at the checkout, and she realized she didn't have enough to cover the total. And I remember the look of quiet panic on her face as she had to ask the cashier to take back a box of cereal and some fruit.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that. It's such a common yet deeply impactful scenario. What was the feeling you experienced in that moment as a 7-year-old?
It was absolute shame and fear. I felt like the whole line of people behind us was staring and judging us. And I felt terrified that we weren't safe, that the world was precarious. I realized, looking back at that memory as an adult, that I absorbed the belief right then and there that money is synonymous with danger and humiliation. If you don't have it, you are humiliated. But if you try to get it, you are constantly in danger of losing it.
And how has that specific feeling of danger and shame played out in your adult life, in your physical reality?
Oh, it runs everything if I don't watch it. Even when I have plenty of money in the bank, I still operate from a baseline of low-level panic. I have a really hard time investing in my business or spending money on myself because my inner self is screaming, don't let go of it, or you'll be humiliated at the checkout line again. I am financially okay, but my mental world is still that terrified 7-year-old.
That is the perfect illustration of exactly what Seth is talking about. It is amazing to think about how a completely forgotten childhood emotion can invisibly dictate an adult's financial reality. Your adult intellect wants wealth and ease, but your inner self associates money with the pain of shame.
So it protects me.
Yes, it protects you. It might protect you by making sure you never take a big financial risk, or it might protect you by making sure you never accumulate too much wealth, because wealth feels unfamiliar and therefore dangerous to your nervous system.
I really want to ask you, the listener, to deeply consider this right now. What invisible script is running your life? What is the core feeling you are projecting out into the physical world, which is then faithfully reflecting that exact feeling back to you in your bank balance or your career trajectory?
And the beautiful thing here, the relief, is that Seth assures us that simply seeing this belief is the first and most vital step to dismantling it. You don't have to go through years of grueling psychoanalysis to fix it. Once you drag that memory and that feeling out of the shadows of the unconscious and look at it with your conscious mind, it begins to lose its power over you.
Because you bring the light of awareness to it.
Yes, you realize, oh, I am not cursed. I am not doomed to always struggle. I am just operating on a faulty software program that I innocently installed when I was 7 years old. Just recognizing the belief, just naming the feeling, begins to loosen its grip on your physical reality. You can look at it and say, that was my mother's fear, not mine. That was my father's anger, not mine.
Okay, so the money question helps clear the foundational mental block. It shows us where the dam is built. But what about the day-to-day physical burnout? What about the daily grind where we are caught in that deeply ingrained habit of forcing outcomes? Just like Jane staring at the blank page. How do we break the habit of the hustle?
For that, we use the second tool, which we call the 10-minute receptive pause. This is the direct physical application of Seth's teaching on the art of allowing. It is incredibly simple, but it will challenge your ego deeply. Here is how you do it. Before you tackle a difficult, heavy, or overwhelming task, the kind of task that makes your chest tighten just thinking about it, whether it's writing a proposal, having a hard conversation, or paying a stack of bills, you must stop.
Stop completely.
Stop completely. You sit down for exactly 10 minutes, and you do absolutely nothing. You do not look at your phone. You do not plan the task. You do not write a to-do list. You do not worry about the outcome. You let your mind drift entirely. You stare at the wall. You listen to the birds. You breathe. You are deliberately, physically disengaging the conscious mind from its habit of forcing an outcome.
You are literally stepping away from the blank page, just like Seth told Jane to do.
Exactly.
But I have to say, sitting still and doing nothing when you are stressed about a deadline sounds like a form of psychological torture. The withdrawal from the dopamine of hustling is real.
It is entirely uncomfortable at first. Your conscious mind will scream at you. It will say, we are wasting time, we are falling behind, this is irresponsible. But you have to remember the mechanics we discussed. Your conscious mind is trying to manually pump the heart. By sitting for 10 minutes and doing nothing, you are forcing the conscious mind to let go of the steering wheel. You are creating a vacuum. And in that space, the inner self can finally communicate.
So what are we looking for during those 10 minutes? Are we waiting for a booming voice from the heavens to tell us what to do?
Not at all. At the end of those 10 minutes, you simply notice your internal state. You see if there is a small, gentle nudge toward action. It is rarely a booming voice. It is usually a whisper. It might be a sudden, quiet idea of someone you should call. It might be a completely different angle on the project that feels lighter. Or it might just be a feeling of, okay, the tension has passed. I feel ready to write the first sentence now. You follow that specific, gentle nudge.
And what if the nudge isn't there? What if after 10 minutes, the thought of the task still makes my chest tighten and still feels like pushing a boulder up a mountain?
Then you do not force it. You pivot to something else that feels lighter, or you rest longer. You respect the feedback of your own energetic system. Listen to this verbatim quote from Seth in chapter 11 because it perfectly anchors the necessity of this technique. The conscious mind is meant to direct the activities of the body, but it is not meant to force the inner self into a corner.
Wow. Not meant to force the inner self into a corner. That is exactly what we do when we hustle out of fear. We back our inner self into a corner with our anxiety, we hold a metaphorical gun to its head, and we demand that it produce brilliant results right now. No wonder we are so burned out.
It's completely unsustainable.
But doing nothing for 10 minutes. I know there are people listening right now who are rolling their eyes thinking, must be nice. I don't have 10 minutes to do nothing. I'm too busy. I have kids. I have 2 jobs. My boss needs this report in an hour.
I hear that resistance, and it is valid based on the cultural conditioning we discussed. But the irony, the profound, undeniable truth of reality creation is that those 10 minutes of alignment will save you 3 hours of exhausting, unproductive, mistake-riddled forcing.
Yes, because action taken from a state of alignment, from that gentle nudge, is infinitely more potent than action taken from a state of fear or exhaustion.
Exactly. Remember the absolute rule we started with. Action in the physical world follows action in the mental world. If your mental action is scattered, forced, panicked, and anxious, your physical results will be difficult, draining, and fraught with obstacles. You will send the email to the wrong person, the software will crash, the client will be difficult.
It's just friction everywhere.
But if your mental action is calm, receptive, aligned, and open, your physical results will flow with a natural grace. The doors will open easily.
Which brings us to the most important part of this deep dive. Because just listening to us talk about Seth and Jen Roberts and the mechanics of reality creation isn't going to change your bank account. It isn't going to cure your burnout. Understanding the theory intellectually is wonderful, but it's not enough. We have to challenge you to actually embody these techniques immediately. We have to move this from the intellect into the physical body.
Yes, we are assigning you a very specific 2-part exercise within the next 24 hours. Do not wait until the weekend. Do not wait until you have more time. The magic is in the immediate application.
Okay, let's lay it out.
Part 1. Sometime today, spend exactly 5 minutes journaling on your earliest money memory. Grab a physical pen and paper if you can. Do not overthink it. Just write down whatever memory pops up first. It doesn't matter if it seems trivial. And critically, identify the specific feeling attached to it. Name the emotion. Write it down. Look at it on the paper. Acknowledge it.
Just look at it. You don't have to solve it or analyze it to death. Just expose it to the light.
Precisely. And part 2, use the 10-minute receptive pause at least once today. Pick a task on your to-do list that currently feels heavy, overwhelming, or draining to you. Before you start it, set a timer on your phone for 10 minutes. Put the phone in another room if you have to. Sit down. Do nothing. Let your mind wander. Feel the discomfort of not producing. And then, when the timer goes off, only move forward with the task if you feel that gentle, inspired nudge.
I love how beautifully simple and accessible this is. There is no forcing involved in the homework itself. You aren't being asked to hustle your way to abundance or meditate for 4 hours. You are literally just being asked to pause, to observe your own feelings without judgment, and to allow the natural flow of your own creative energy to dictate your next step.
It's all about allowing.
It is the ultimate relief. Honestly, just talking through this, I feel my own shoulders dropping. I finally feel like I possess a practical, usable bridge between doing the inner emotional work and actually seeing outer physical results in my life without bringing myself to the ground in the process.
That is the beauty of this framework. It removes the struggle, and we are going to take this even deeper. Next time, the finale, we put it all together. Chapter 12, plus a simple 6-day practice to make this a habit. This is where everything clicks.
I absolutely cannot wait for that.
But before we leave you today, I want to give you one final lingering thought to explore on your own. We talked a lot about money today, but if money is simply a physical symbol of your belief in your own creative energy, what other physical objects or situations in your life right now are quietly reflecting your hidden beliefs back at you?